Yeah, that's the first thing I told you too, right? Something I failed so badly. And don't forget, the vision is not just the product. Then, and I was sick for like a week. Oh shoot. For me, the process was trying to just communicate that to the designer, and finding the right designer is really, really hard as well.
Alright, hey guys, it's me, and I'm here with the lovely Sophia, 언니 Sophia Hang. And I've mentioned actually Sophia before in my videos when telling you guys how I actually started and launched my own brand. Sophia was definitely there to help out so much, and I don't think I would have even considered starting if it wasn't for Sophia. And so today we're going to talk about a bit more about like what goes behind the scenes, what you need to do to start your own skincare brand.
Hi guys, I'm Sophia from Mask Moments. I think I've been in this channel before. She was interviewed us before. But as the creator of a sheet mask brand, it's Mask Moments, I was very, very stressed out about the entire process and how the process was so, in many ways, really archaic, right?
Yeah.
And so what's going on is that the entire supply chain, the entire process of how it works, I wanted to make an easier process, not only for myself, but I wanted to help other beauty owners or future beauty owners and entrepreneurs, especially women who wanted to have, because so many women have this dream of creating their own brand, but I wanted to make that process easier. And
it can be so intimidating. Like this is something Sophia told me and something I shared with you guys, that this industry is dominated by, ironically, males.
Correct.
And I'm very careful in, you know, how I'm delivering this.
I know, it's so scary.
But I just thought, for me, when I first heard it, and I told you guys before that it was so shocking because you'd think it would be women who knows about skincare, who cares about other women that are making the skincare products, but it's all males, like more than 90%, right?
More than 90%. And because the truth of the matter is we have to understand what the marketplace is like, right? And it's actually just driven by capitalism, and that's just, we have to be practical about it. And so if you think about it, a lot of the market is driven by numbers and price. So many times, all of these really successful, brands they create product that's just set by price.
Right.
Yeah, as opposed to the product itself.
Right.
And it's a cycle. It's almost a vicious cycle, because think about who the retailers are and their decision makers.
Right.
They're also many times men. And then there's vendors, distributors, also men.
Yes.
And then think about the investors, also men. Yeah. And so, when you invest in somebody, you would think, oh, I would invest in somebody because this person has good potential, good numbers. But actually, a lot of times they just don't understand the beauty industry.
Yeah.
And so you have to do all this upselling and educating about an industry that men really don't care about. And so women have it really hard when it comes to beauty entrepreneurship.
I know, and that was one of the things you told me that really sparked something inside me. Right now, we're really gonna go into the details of how to actually create and launch a skincare brand, if you guys are interested. And even if you're not thinking of making a skincare brand, I think it's still good to know the behind the scenes, and it definitely makes you more appreciative of all the products that we buy.
Yes.
All right, so let's start.
So the most important thing I always tell everybody is to, number one, start with a budget.
Yes.
And that's the first thing I told you too, right?
Something I failed so badly.
But it's a learning process, and it's something that I think people just don't, they underestimate at first.
Yeah.
Because they may have this big, huge dream of like creating,
an amazing product.
Yeah, and they want to be sold out, and they want to be on all stores, and okay, but don't forget, somebody needs to foot the bill. You need to get the product there. And so you have to start with a budget.
Yeah.
Yes. And so you'll have a realistic budget, and don't forget to think about all the things that come with creating a product. Right? So there's a term called minimum quantity order. We call them MOQs, right, for short. And so that's another term that you need to understand in the industry. So there's a bunch of terms, industry speak, that you start learning as well.
Yeah.
Like SKUs, SKU, MOQ, volume, units. And so you need to understand this, kind of do a lot of research on this behind the scenes industry speak. But so what's really most important is MOQ, which is the minimum quantity order that you need to order when you order from a factory.
Right.
So don't forget that manufacturing facilities or factories are these huge facilities. So it's not a tiny lab where you're creating 10 products at a time. They push out like hundreds of thousands of products at a time. Even for you to try to use a facility, you just need to have a minimum quantity order.
Right.
Which means high volume.
High. Like factories, like factories like in Korea, the most popular like Kolma, Cosmetics, that I think a lot of my subbies are also familiar with. They won't do minimum quantities of like hundreds. Like
no, nobody does hundreds.
Nobody does
hundreds in the industry. I think the lowest I've seen is like 10,000, and even then, I think they make certain exceptions for sometimes depending on the milliliter and volume of your product. They'll maybe come down to like 5,000 minimum.
Right.
But normally at the big factories, especially in America, you're talking about 100,000 and 10,000. Wow. And so the minimum money you need to start a product in just any given business generally is actually $100,000.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of money. So when we talk about budget, we're talking about, well, do you have $100,000 in your pocket to start just to create that product?
Yeah.
So let's say you didn't, and let's say let's say you were even doing 5,000. So let's say cut that in half. Let's say it's 50,000. But then don't forget that you need to create money to create the design. You need to create, the labels, the packaging. You need to create marketing,
the outer box.
There's so many things that require money. And so the first thing you need to come up with is think about a budget, and then from the budget, allocate a certain percentage for the product. And when you have enough money saved up to begin a process, a full process, I think that's when you're ready to start your own beauty brand.
And that's just a process to start making a product.
Yeah, this is just step one.
This is you just warming up for the sprint, or the marathon even, not a sprint.
Yeah.
For me, from my perspective, what's really important is that you need to have a very clear vision of what you want.
Absolutely.
You can't be like, oh, I love skincare is great. Maybe I'll make one. Oh, let me just, casually make a product. You won't get anywhere with that. You need to have a very clear picture of what you want. And luckily for me, I knew what I wanted. I saw a missing place in the toner pad market. I was like, there's not a product that's like this. So let me make it. So the more clear vision you have and the more clear it is, it will be so much easier for you to make that step.
Right. So before even stepping in, what you want to do is you want to try to outline that vision. And don't forget, the vision is not just the product, it's the branding too. The branding has to be very, very clear. So the whole part of, so number 2 would be vision.
Right.
And part of that vision would be branding as well.
Yes.
And so that vision has to be on product, what that brand is, what kind of colors you want it to be, what kind of design,
image,
what kind of font, where does the font go, this has to be very, very clear. And I will tell you, I've worked with many brand owners to help them create their own brand, like yourself, but it's this process that actually takes much longer than the actual production itself.
Oh yeah, that's so true. Look, I think for me, because I knew what kind of brand I wanted and the brand image, for me the process was trying to just communicate that to the designer, and finding the right designer is really, really hard as well. Unless you have those skills yourself, you are obviously going to have to outsource that to a designer, and finding a designer is hard. Finding a designer that speaks your color, speaks your, I guess, design is also another part. So I actually had an incident where I was working with a designer, and the designer suddenly decided to ghost me in the middle of the process. So second, branding is important. I'm sorry, I'm sidetracking and everything that Sophia is saying.
So part of branding would be to finalize the design and the title and the name of your company. You want to have all of that set, right?
Yeah.
And what I feel that most people do is they say, oh, I need to find a chemist, or before all of that, you don't even have to have money at this point to have your vision down on paper. That is just prep. That
Yeah.
preparation is where you should be spending your time.
Yes.
So have the budget, yes, but spend a lot of time on defining that vision and defining that branding of the product as well as the brand itself and what you want it to look like. And if it helps, reference as many products as you need that's already on the market. Have a Pinterest mood board, you know? First thing, number one, budget. Number two, have a clear vision of your product and your vision and your brand.
And I think like asking yourself why you want to create this specific brand or skincare is so important because nowadays there's so many skincare products, brands coming out back to back, and I think I see so many great skincare brands that are coming out, but I can't really connect with them because I don't know what their story is.
The message,
like why are they doing it? So I think having that why is also really
purpose is really important. So actually I force people to think about that as well as part of the questionnaire that we have, right? As well as differentiating the product too.
Yeah.
So what makes your product different and unique? And this is something you need to have already kind of in your head before starting the process.
Right.
So let's just say those things are out of the way. So you have a brand, a budget set up, right? But who has $100,000, right? And so this was one of the challenges that I wanted to help people with. Like I really wanted people to be able to start a brand for lower costs. Right, and that was one of the things, right? Because manufacturing just doesn't allow for that. No. And so, second of all, well, now that the vision is in place, who's going to execute it for you? Yeah. And so this process is how I came up with the Maker Maker. TheMakerMaker.com.
Introducing Sophia's baby.
Yes, this is the project that we've been working on. Yeah. And basically, like I said earlier, all of these challenges that I had, which is, you know, how do I make this process easier? All these questions that I just asked you guys about branding, about budget, about vision, about the purpose, and, you know, who's putting all this stuff together? You know, who's asking you these questions? So this is actually the motivation behind how I created the MakerMaker.com. Basically, the MakerMaker.com is a beauty platform, on-demand platform, where it helps you, walks you through all of these different questions.
That you need to think about.
That's right.
That is absolutely essential.
That's right. And so once you have that, what we do is we actually help lower the cost to entry. What that means is instead of having to create 100,000 products for $100,000, right? Or 1,000,000 products or $1 million to start a project, we actually allow people to start their projects for as low as $3,000 to $5,000, depending on what they're creating.
Right.
So we're lowering the MOQ all the way down to 1,000 products, sometimes even less if your volumes are higher. And what I mean by volume is the quantity of milliliters that's in your product.
Right.
And so we created the MakerMaker.com, and if you go on the MakerMaker.com, what you see is there's a questionnaire that you have to fill out, and it's very, very simple. So assuming you have a budget in mind, this is where we ask the prompts about your vision and about what kind of product that you want to create. And once you're ready with that information, you can actually just type it right in. You type it right in, you tell us what the name of your product is, what the name of your brand is going to be, and then you tell us what your vision is, what makes your product different. And this is where we ask questions like what kind of fragrance, what kind of texture,
right?
You know,
what is the main purpose or the function of your skincare? Is it anti-inflammation, calming, hydrating?
And this is really important, but we made this part in layman's terms. So what the questionnaire allows you to do is select the top functions you want your product to have. So you can say, I want brightening, or I want anti-aging, or I want this product to do X. I want to create a shampoo that helps, you know, volumize hair. And you have to give the exact direction of what end product that you want, and the system actually then thinks about what kind of formula. Unless you want to also include, like, you know, let's say you already did your research and you knew you wanted like vitamin C in your product. Then you can ask for those specific things. So for example, let's take Sue's toner pad, for example. Sue was very, very clear on that she wanted cabbage as the main key ingredient element. She wanted to everything about cabbage. It was like marketing cabbage, it was green, it was cabbage water, cabbage extract, you know, and any other supplementary
calming ingredients.
Calming ingredients. Asked for calming, soothing, it was you asked for hydrating, right? And those were the biggest kind of concepts that we want to target. And so once you're able to give that direction, we have chemists on this end that will help you translate that.
Right.
So once you do that, the next part is assuming that you have, your fragrance in mind. For Sue's case, she wanted no fragrance.
No fragrance.
So she hits no fragrance.
Vegan.
You checked off for vegan. We actually, we do have carton boxes and outer packaging available, but we recommend not to do them because we want to save as much, the environment as possible. Right. So we have the option of not doing a carton as well. And then once you're ready with that, then, and assuming you've already done your design, you create a file and a design file that you want to upload for your label.
Right.
So for this process, it's really about, we have two different kinds of labels. You have stickers, which you've seen. So if you look at Sue's product, you see the sticker right on there.
Label.
Or you have the option of printing right on the bottle. So that you make a selection for that. And then there's the bottling options. So you can look through the list, think about how much volume you want your product to be. Do you want it to be a 300 milliliter? Do you want it to be a 250 milliliter? Do you want it to be 100 milliliters?
Right.
So depending on what your product is, you get to select the volume and you think about what kind of bottle, what kind of lid you want, what color, and then you enter all of that information in. And once you have that information submitted, then you can review what you have submitted, and then you can submit your information to us. We do ask for questions like of where you're going to sell it.
Right.
The reason I ask this question is because I want people to have an idea before they create their product. Because if they don't even have a place to sell it, I don't want them to sit at home with all this inventory. That's probably going to expire in like a couple years, and you think, oh, I'll use all the, no, you won't use all the products. No.
And you also have to think about like where you're going to market it, your website, and Maker Maker does ask that, and I think it's great that it does, because you think you're prepared, but there's always going to be something that happens that's going, and you're going to run out of time. So it's good that you have all of these prepared already.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so once you have that, then you can request for a sample. So on Maker Maker, we ask for $99 to get your first sample. And that $99, it's not we're taking it from you, we're actually deducting that as a deposit. That's right. Because I want people to be serious about, creating their product. I don't want them just to create a sample, or I don't want like a random 11-year-old coming by and like
waste your time.
Yeah.
Waste other people's time, valuable time.
Right. So we ask for a $99 deposit so that we know that if we create a sample for you, you're serious about actually then creating your entire line. And so it's not like all of these things, by the way, happen in one place, you guys. So there are separate labs, separate chemists that you need to find for the formulation.
Separate printers
for the labels, which is different printing companies.
Right.
Separate companies for packaging.
Yeah.
Different companies do the packaging, right? So there's the packaging. There's also, so we talked about formulation, we talked about the labs, then the actual facility itself, because different facilities do different things.
Right.
So you need to identify a facility. But even after that, the separate companies to truck your your products. Yeah, you have to have, because
delivery person.
Yeah, so the first mistake, the couple mistakes I made when I was doing my product, and this is kind of why I thought about this, is we had the products made, my masks made, and they were finished and they were done with the factory, and I didn't know that I had to order a truck
to get it delivered
to me. Yeah, and so it was just stuck in the factory somewhere. And by the way, like if it's stuck in the factory, they charge you for storage.
Right.
Yeah, so because it's not just like one or two parts, they're pallets that are like huge, and so, and don't forget, like I didn't have minimum quantity, I had to do the full quantity.
Right.
And so I had like one of those 18-wheeler truckload just sitting there, and no way to, I wasn't about to, like, it's not like you can bring your car and I'm also like 100-pound girl, right? I'm like 45 kilograms, right? And I lifted, each one of my boxes were 35 pounds.
Oh, wow.
I lifted 100 of them, and I was sick for like a week.
Oh, shoot.
I lifted 100 of them, and I even have pictures. I'll show you these pictures. I lifted them from literally to the garage to the car. I put them in a 4x4. I made like 5 trips, and I brought it to my parents' garage when I first started. That's how I really did it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But remember with you, I was like, okay, here's your trucking person, here's your like
Right.
delivery person, you know, so we did all that, right?
Right.
And it's not even just going to a facility. You gotta do your research, you gotta get your samples, you gotta, you know, there's all of this work that goes into creating a product, and I just wanted
Right.
to simplify that process, but I also wanted to digitize that process.
Right.
And lastly, I wanted that process to be accessible digitally, like wherever you are in the world.
Right.
Because let's say you knew all of this, but you're in like a different country.
Mm-hmm.
How are you gonna come to this like countryside in Korea, which, you know, there are great K-beauty labs in Korea and manufacturing here is superior, but how are you supposed to find it if you're like sitting in Australia or like sitting
Right.
in, you know, Canada somewhere? There's no way, you know, and it's not like it's accessible online.
Right.
So the Maker really tries to help do that as well. We want to make it digital, we want to make it accessible. We want to make it, you know, minimum quantity so you can start with at least $5,000 and not $100,000.
Right.
And we want to help guide you and prompt you in this process of creating a product.
Right. Just like listening to the process again, it's like kind of give me a like. So I went through all of this process starting from last year's summer, and I just remember, wow, it was so much more harder than I anticipated. But anyways, it was a great experience for me, and this maker that Sophia has created is out there for anyone who wants to, you know, who's passionate about skincare, who wants to do something and create their own label or brand. Sophia's Maker is the perfect accessible system to start out with. So I just wanted to invite her and share her baby to the world.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, once again, like it's all about empowering other women or other people, you know.
Yeah, other entrepreneurs.
I don't
right?
want to be exclusive, like
Yeah.
exclusive, but I think it's just in this industry where it's so dominated by males, ironically, I think it's important that we have each other's back, we support each other. So
Even
yeah.
once you launch, right? Even once you launch, you need to
Right.
help other people to even spread the word, and even small things like liking or sharing is really helpful.
So,
right? You appreciate that, right?
I appreciated the heck out of everyone who posted, and it just like made me cry out of happiness. I'm like, oh my gosh. Definitely that was one of the that was one of the things that I remembered the most from the experience. All the help that I got from other people, from Sophia, from you guys, just the little things. I just, wow, people are here for my back. They have my back. So we just want to do that, the same thing for you guys as
Yeah.
well. So yeah, guys, make sure to check out Sophia's Maker. I'll leave all the links down below. I hope you guys enjoyed this little session of talking about how to actually create a skincare brand, going to the details. Hope it helps. Make sure to give this video a like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Go follow Sophia and Mass Moments on Instagram. I'll leave all the details down in the description box. And I'll see you guys in my next. Bye!